Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Public Health's virtual education series, Wažookį, Family Conversations. I'm Jamie Decora, the Community Health Representative Supervisor, and I am joined today by Arielle, our public health nurse. She will help moderate today's session. The goal of this series is to gather, learn, and share about our Ho-Chunk culture, resources, services, and the connection to health. In public health, we focus on prevention, promotion, and the protection of health and well-being for our communities. Health and well-being are rooted in many aspects of our lives, from our physical body, our mental health, our spirit, the environment we live in, and much more. During these sessions, we will explore topics that can impact our health and well-being. Together, we will learn about tools and resources to improve our health and the health of our communities. Today, we welcome Arielle Hall, Tutoring Services Supervisor. We will have about 45 minutes for Arielle's presentation, followed by a Q&A. Please use the chat function to enter any comments or questions for our presenter, as Arielle and I will monitor the chat throughout the presentation and read the questions for Arielle at the end. You can raise your hand and come off mute during the Q&A to ask your questions out loud. Any questions that we don't have time for, we will forward to Arielle and email responses back to the group. This session is being recorded and will be posted to the Department of Health website page as well as our Facebook page. Everyone, please welcome Arielle.
Good afternoon, everybody. So, my name is Arielle Hall. I am from Rhode Island. I'm Narragansett, not Ho-Chunk. My children are Ho-Chunk. I have 3 + 1 kiddos. They are 24, 20, and 18. 2 are in college, and 1 is living his best life. I then have a 10-year-old. I have custody of my nephew, who's also Ho-Chunk. So I have been in Wisconsin since 2001 and started working in every division through education department, and eventually they got sick of me and sent me off to college. So through a scholarship, I went to UW-Milwaukee, got my teaching license, and came back to Black River Falls, started working for the school district. I have worked in 8th grade, 7th grade, and 5th grade over the last 12 years. So this year I decided to take a break and come back to education department because I think my teaching method was too woke for the district. So I came back to the nation to see how I can empower other teachers to use the same strategies I used in my classroom to make sure we reach our Native families, our Native students, and kind of bridge that mythical cultural gap, because it really is just a miscommunication on both sides. So I've been in the tutor services program since September and have had an absolute blast. I've provided professional developments to 7 school districts so far about what our kids' unique needs are, what our families' needs are, and what is the best way to communicate and collaborate those needs. So I want to start with, that's me, but now going into kind of education on the government and federal level. So in 1980, Congress established the Department of Education. Congress is the only people that can demolish the Department of Education. So I know what you're hearing in the news and the executive orders that Trump and his cabinet want to get rid of things. Know that there's a lot of hands that have to hold to make that happen. So overall, I'm not extremely concerned for this year that that's going to be a reality, but I also want to be one step ahead of what they might do. So that's why having memorandum of understandings with different districts is important for the tutor program, so that with or without the Department of Ed, we're still going to be there. We're still going to support our students. And we can provide training that maybe the Department of Ed won't be able to fund anymore, but we can provide that. So we're here to make sure our Ho-Chunk students' needs are met in every district, regardless of what the Department of Ed is going to do. We want to make sure we have them covered in our little hub of the world, if you will, at least for Wisconsin, Chicago, and Minneapolis right now. So also with that information on Congress, know that they provide a small percent of funding to public schools. The states provide most. So if the Department of Ed closes, that's 10% of funding that could be affected in each state for school funding. The biggest impact that has is Title I. So in the education language, there's 10 titles. Title I is the disabilities title. So students that have needs, this is where aid support and materials and curriculum would come from. So if the education department decides we want to cut Title I, the Ho-Chunk Nation Education Department is ready to say, okay, but we have certified staff that are going to support as many of our students as we can. And we have put tutors in 11 service areas throughout Minneapolis, St. Paul, all throughout Wisconsin, and in Chicago. We're still working on how can we advocate for our, I guess it would be Area 3 now, students. You know, we have some in Florida, California, I mean, every state. How can we benefit those students too? If this is a thing, how can we support our kiddos still? So know that that is a big goal for tutor services. And I just wanted to make that a forefront of this conversation is we are aware that there's some government concerns outside of the Ho-Chunk Nation government, but we are prepared to support our kiddos. Given that, the tutor services program, we do have 19 tutors throughout Minneapolis, the state of Wisconsin, and in Chicago. We have youth services, 9 of those areas. We do not have youth services in Chicago at this time. So their role is academic support, security, self-sufficiency, and inclusion. When our kiddos see somebody in their school who looks like them, they're a lot more comfortable and they start to act like themselves more. They volunteer more, they work harder, they want to impress somebody that's like them. So I've kind of broken it down and I've presented this to districts as well as like, these are kind of what we think each role should be. So the role of families, your job as the parent, as the adult, is to advocate for your student. Make sure you know them best. What needs do they have? How can you make sure those needs are met? Are you doing checks and balances on the district to make sure? Are you okay with meeting once a month or once a quarter or trimester for that parent-teacher conference? Or should you be checking in more frequently because sometimes teachers will fluff stuff up and you don't see that until you see a report card. Parents also need to foster a love of learning. If you're sending your child to school because it's school time, you've lost the value in education. If you're telling them you're going to school because I need you to be the smartest person you can be, that's fostering that love of learning. My 10-year-old asks me that every day. Why do I have to go? Well, you need to be the best human you can be. This is where you're going to get that. And then when you come home, we're going to practice it again. And it's not always happy with me. Be present in your child's education. Ask if you can volunteer. Ask how you can help the teacher. How can you ensure your child's safety if you're not there all day? I know you trust the system, but know that your kid is still a kid. I don't care if they're 4 or 18. They're still a kid. They're still in those roles. So be there. Be present. What we expect the role of the school to be is to meet those academic standards, to foster those emotional skills, to foster those academic schools. We need them to legally comply with federal, state, and county mandates. That's not an option. Those are things they have to do. They don't have to do that parenting part. That's the parent's role. And then the role of our support system. So the tutors, the social services, I know guidance counselors, but then there's outside counselors that will come in. We're there to support that child as a whole. So together we make this perfect package. To the goal would be to provide these perfect little young adults that come into our world and understand how the system works. How does the government work? How does paychecks work? How does, working together, collaboration, how does that work? Well, if they don't see it modeled as they're coming up, they're not going to model it in their life. So I think this is super important that one child has a team, and as a team, we have to work together. So things I'm going to help parents, guardians, adults in child's lives know your district, know the legal ways to advocate, know who your support systems are. So knowing your district, it's intense. The district handbooks are anywhere from 40 to 75 pages, and most of it you don't learn until it's too late. So what should you do when choosing a district if you have the option? If you don't have the option, I need you to investigate once you're in that district. My kiddos, we weren't moving out of Black River, so this was a district we chose. Then I realized I didn't like anything about this district, but what I could do was make the positive changes I wanted to see. So look at their website. What is their mission statement? Is it something you agree with? Or would you want to go to the school board and say, hey, I like your statement, but can you talk about culture? Can you talk about land appropriation? Can we do these things? Can we add that piece? Are you involved with the school board? Do you know who's on your school board? So I didn't know as a young mom, when I sent my kids to school, the principal and the superintendent, that was the boss. Well, then I became a teacher and realized that is not the boss. The school board is the boss. They decide what is the curriculum. They decide who's going to be hired. They decide if there's going to be an expulsion. None of that is on principals or administration. That is 100% on the school board. And those are elected positions by your community. And not all of those board members have an education background. So that was something that's, I guess, 5, 6 years newer to me on being more aware of who am I voting onto this board. Maybe I need to not be a teacher and be on this board. Is my culture represented on this board? Right now in Jackson County and Black River Falls, there are no Native people on our school board, and we are 28% Native American population. That's a problem. And I can say that for other districts too. If you don't have representation on that board, make sure you find those candidates to run when those seats are open. Knowing what kind of goals you want for your child. Does that district's report card align with your goals? Are they ranked higher, lower? What are their strengths? What additional supports would you need to get for your child to make sure they stay in that top 30%? Tour of the school. Schools are going to look like schools, but what I need you to feel out is the staff in the school. Is the office welcoming? Is it clean? Is it open? Is it bright lights? Is it a working environment, or is it somewhere where there's kids screaming nonstop? Are there people crying? Are the staff members rude? Like, that's something that our children have to see every day. So making sure that's a good place. Did the principal take time to meet you? Because without you, they're out of a job, so they should be working with parents. Is your student represented in the hallway? My children are all Ho-Chunk, so it was very important to me that we didn't just have pink faces all over the hallway. I wanted to see all students in the hallway. I wanted to see the art curriculum have some unique representation. Their learning targets are what they are, but we can adjust them and incorporate some different techniques to make it more culturally appropriate. And transportation options. A lot of problems we deal with in the education department from families are bus bullying. So look at, what does the bus look like? How many kids are on that bus? What are the rules? What are the requirements? Are there cameras? Is there one driver? Is there an aide on the bus? Asking those important questions to make sure your child's safety comes first. Behavior policy, probably the second big thing we deal with. We get called in a lot of times because parents didn't read the policies. So when their child did X, Y, or Z and they want to go and say the school is being racist, that's not always the case. I'm not going to say it's not ever the case, because the family didn't know the behavior policy. They didn't know certain clothes shouldn't be worn. They didn't know your kid couldn't run out of the building. Like, there's just a lot of things. So familiarize yourself. And then with that behavior policy, what are the steps that follow it? Is it what is the chain of command with that? A slap on the wrist, a half day of in-school suspension, an out-of-school suspension, an after-school detention. Make sure they're following the chain. Make sure they say they do what they're saying. This doesn't always happen. And that's where we need you to call us. We need you to call education department and say, this happened, who can help me? There's a whole team of us that are willing to jump in and help because we have read those behavior policies. We want to make sure we're making sure our students are taken care of. Make sure if your student requires accommodations, make sure that's part of a behavior policy, whether it needs a 504 plan or an IEP or just a quick note to the teacher. Hey, we had a cold, prickly morning. Can you handle with care? or hey, they got grounded last night, lost their cell phone, might be a little agitated today. Those accommodations, those quick little notes to the teacher, that communication to make sure your child's in the best hands. We don't want any party to assume, well, they're just lazy, they didn't shower. Well, actually, they're homeless right now. So keeping that open communication is important because we want welcoming places for our kiddos. Curriculum and programs, not every parent is trained to read, write, and implement curriculum. That's okay. Ask us. We are trained, to do that. Is the curriculum appropriate? Does it show your student in it? Are we reading the Holocaust or are we reading boarding schools? Which part of this do we want to reach? So make sure your child is seen. In the last 4 years, there have been 2 additional questions on the state forward exam that are about Native Americans. And that is super new to the United States. And that's a state that, or a test that every state takes. And so they're starting to get better, but it takes a village to make this change, to make sure all the cultures are shown in our curriculum. Do they offer STEM programs? What is their athletics? Is this going to be a school where you have to have the right last name to be in the sport? If that is, then you need to talk to the athletic director. You need to make it crystal clear that that's unacceptable. You need to go to the school board and make it clear that's unacceptable. So when it does happen, you have a paper trail to say, I told you this is what you did, now you did it, now change the policy. Making sure the curriculum aligns with your child's learning needs. I had to request my nephew. He can read, he just can't spell for the life of him. So he uses text to speech. He doesn't have an IEP, he doesn't have a 504 yet. But they made that accommodation to make sure his learning needs were met. And it was a simple little note. It wasn't a formal meeting. I didn't wait till parent-teacher conferences. I just said, hey, I'm noticing this. We'll work on this at home, but in the meantime, can you use this in the classroom? Yep, we can do that. If your child does require special education, they have an IEP, they have a 504, or you feel like they might need one of those, will that district be able to accommodate your student? Wheelchairs, bathrooms, lighting. We recently had a student in an area who is blind, and that school district had no blind accommodations. And so we had to call their CISA and the DPI to say, we need you to put in, they can't even go outside because they don't have the orange bubbles to show them this is the end of the sidewalk. They don't have the fluorescent lights in this classroom, even though they're blind, that's still, the rays are giving them a migraine. Like there's things we need to work on. So that district, that school was not appropriate for that student. And so we found alternate education for that. It's not fair for the child. What is the staff to student ratio, especially in special education? If they're short staffed, I would run. I would run as far as you can to a district that is not short staffed. What is the overall layout of the building? If your child has anger or has anxiety, do you want a building full of stairs? I think that would be a little scary. Do you want buildings that have a million broom closets? What does the gym look like? What are the bleachers? There's a lot of things to look at when looking at a school district. Family involvement, and this is probably the hardest thing for any district to obtain, is family involvement. We're in a generation where parents send their kids to school. That's their job. The parents go to work. That's their job. We come home and then we're a family. So we've separated all these pieces when, as the first slide showed, we're not separate. We have to work together. So is there staff open to people coming in to helping? Do you want extra readers? Do you want people to come in and do flashcards? Do you require a background check? That would be my first question. I don't want a stranger who didn't clear a background check working my child. My child's safety is important to me. What do their family nights look like? Is there activities that are age appropriate? Is there games that are age appropriate? Is there somebody monitoring to make sure the adults there are safe adults? Those are things I always look for. I was going to show like how to use the district report card, but I think at the end I will show you how the DPI website works. If you're interested in seeing all of that data and all those stats we just talked about, you can find on the Department of Instruction website. Are there any questions about school district side of it? We're going to move on to how can I advocate for my student? Be comfortable. So when you walk into the school and you see that secretary, are they greeting you on a first name basis? Do they at least know your last name? Do you know who to email? Do you have that phone number in your saved numbers on your phone? Or if you're a good memorizer, have you memorized that phone number? Because right now I only know my own phone number. But I have all the schools I need to talk to are saved in my favorite list. So I can communicate with them, they can communicate with me. Most teachers have different apps. So there's a Class Dojo. There is the iReady two-way street. There's all these ways to communicate with the teachers. As a parent, we shouldn't be waiting for the teachers to reach out to us to say, oh, this happened today or this project's coming. We should be calling at least every other week saying, hey, how is your day going, Miss Hall? Did Johnny make sure he turned in his work, or is there something we need to work on at home? I don't want to be blindsided when I get to a parent-teacher conference that my kid had 4 weeks and they didn't do anything, and you're just now telling me. It shouldn't be on them solely. I have to hold part of that stake. This is my child. I want to invest my time in making sure my child is doing what they need to. Show your support with their academics. Work with them after school. I'm not telling you to do an hour or 3 hours of homework with them after school. I'm asking you to say, what was your favorite thing you did today? Do you have reading you have to do? If not, here, I want you to read this paragraph to me real quick, and then you can go play. What are you working on in math right now? And I can't tell you how many times as a teacher I've talked to parents, and the excuse is, I'm not good at math, so they're not good at math. Kind of pause, and there were times I told parents, that's okay that you're not good at math, but they're not good at math because they're sleeping through the class. So please don't, as parents, use that excuse. Because you're not good at something does not imply that your student isn't good at something. Make sure we show them, I might not be good at math, but I'm willing to try, is the better way to say it. I don't understand your homework, but I'm willing to sit with you and try it. Because having that grit is more important than learning that lesson. That grit is going to carry them through life. Fractions might only be a 5th grade problem. Your student thrives. Get a copy of their daily schedule. If I know math is every morning from 8 to 9:15, we can't miss school. We cannot make doctor's appointments at that time. We cannot be tardy every day. Those minutes matter. Get a copy of the daily schedule. Know when is the best time? When is your lunch? I'm going to come and have lunch with you this day. Or, hey, you guys did a really good job as a class. Maybe we'll have a pizza party and it's on me, but I know what time you eat lunch, and so we're going to make it happen. How is homework handled? As a parent, I ask this at every open house. As a teacher, I shared that expectation I had. Is it work you didn't finish in the class time is now work that you finish at home because you were not paying attention or you were taking too long to get it done, or maybe it just takes more time for you? Or is homework extra? So you did your classwork, now you're getting a whole nother worksheet at home when you're already proficient in your classwork. That's where I argue with teachers. I don't need busy work, I need enrichment. So if my child doesn't need that enrichment, please don't send home a worksheet, because I'm going to send it back in a Ziploc cut up. And I have done that as a parent. My child is proficient here, we're not doing this. Send it back in a Ziploc, just shredded. I value education, but I also value time. Do they allow support? Push in means, as a parent, can I come and sit in your classroom? Does that offend you? Are you comfortable with that? Hopefully you've asked me to do a background check before I do that. Or is it something where maybe some organizing in the classroom can help? I can come after school and help get this and this ready, because the reality of a teacher's day, it's a 7 to 7 job. There's not a lot of time for breaks in there. That's why teachers get summers off, which we don't. It's It's all pre-planning for the next year. But having somebody even ask, you need me to cut out something for you? Did you need me to run these copies over? Just that little amount of acknowledgement goes a long way. The last thing I think is probably the hardest is speak up on things we don't agree with. Without yelling, without arguing, in your best way. I've noticed this curriculum talks about this. Could we include some of this? I noticed your management technique is a lot of yelling. Could you maybe stop yelling or give an advice? Could you maybe count to 5 and then address the situation? Could you, I know my child is always on their phone. Could you just send me an email that day to say they were on their phone a lot today so I can take it away at home? I can support you at home. Speak up on those things. Become a voice on the school board. That's where all the decisions are made. It's not your principals, it's not your vice principals, it is your school board. Assist with family events. In a lot of districts in Wisconsin, we've done a lot of culture added to their family nights. So if there's a reading, we'll bring in Native authors, Native readers, and they sit in a corner and they read books with kiddos. We have done medicine wheel bracelets with the little, 4K and kinders with pony beads working on their fine motor skills. It is so easy to add a small piece, and it goes a long way. Stand on our beliefs. We always are, as humans, we're quick to complain, we're quick to judge, but we need to have a solution and support that solution with our beliefs. I think this because this, but I'm willing to give you this training or this resource, or we want you to talk to this department because we feel like it can be better. We don't want to back down. We don't want to be bullied. We don't want to be told this is how we've always done it. It's not working how you've always done it. So stand on your beliefs as a parent. What's going to be better? And again, understand those policies. They're going to use it to their advantage that they've memorized these policies. And as a parent, you probably signed the book and never read it. Know those policies. Know your rights. The process to qualifying a student for an IEP or a 504 plan is intense. As a parent, you have every right to say, I want my child tested, or my child has this medical condition. We need a 504 plan. If you are confused, if you are concerned, if you're noticing habits in your student that are a little off and you're not sure where you should go, please reach out to the education department. We can help you. The tutors can help you. Dr. Funmaker can help you. Dr. Redbird can help you. There are a lot of knowledgeable people in that department, especially with the special ed division, because we have had to go to bat for students and families more in that part than anything else. Know that if you are thinking that, there's a team of people that deem if your child is eligible or ineligible. Make sure you're a big voice on that team and that you have support on that team. Legally, you are allowed to invite anybody you want to that meeting. The district will try to tell you they don't need to be here. This is just an introduction. We don't care. You still have that right. It's their opinion that you don't need to, but legally you have that right. What do the accommodations secure for your student? Are they measurable? Are they testable? Are they attainable? Those are always questions you want to make sure. Is that accommodation in the best interest of my child, or does it make the teacher's job easier? I can tell you as a teacher, nothing makes their job easier. Our goal is always to the best outcome for your student. All right. Any questions about that piece? All right, support systems. These are my favorite. This is where my Army comes in. So Ho-Chunk Nation, as I said, I worked here from 2001 to 2008, and then I became a teacher. So I have used the nation from like my Head Start days. I've used the language, I've used the education services, I've used the pre-K through 12 program numerous times. I've used the Johnson O'Malley program numerous times. So here's what Ho-Chunk Nation Education Department currently has in-house to support families. Birth to 3, you can use your county or you can use the Ho-Chunk Social Services. This was a program I used on my nephew, and without this start, I don't think he would be where he is today. He was nonverbal till he was 4, but wasn't observed this until he was about 2.5. And that's when I learned about a Birth to 3 program. Had I known that sooner, I would have reached out to them right away to say, hey, something's a little amiss with this guy. Can we get him screened? Is where it starts. So Birth to 3 is in your county and Ho-Chunk Social Services where they can do those referrals. Head Start program. So Ho-Chunk Nation has 7 Head Starts. Your counties also have Head Start programs. And Head Start is literally that. It is a head start on what a classroom looks like. What are the social skills you need to be okay in kindergarten? What does it look like to walk in a line? What does it look like to share the sink when washing hands? These are all skills that are taught in Head Start and then supported K through 12, and then as an adult, you're expected to be that part of society. In the K-12 world of the education department, there are 4, almost 5 huge programs. So Johnson O'Malley is a federal grant that provides academic and family support to students that are enrolled or a descendant of any tribe. And there's funding in that line item that can assist if you need graduation expenses. Some of that they can help you with. Your school lunch account, it's a supplemental program, so they'll pay a percentage of that bill. Athletic fees, school fees, laptop insurance, those are things that grant can support families with. Also, depending on how that community runs their Johnson O'Malley, you can have parent support groups through that. You can have craft classes through that. You can have cooking classes through that. It just depends on the families that organize and plan in that community. So again, that parent involvement piece is huge. The pre-K through 12 program is for Ho-Chunk enrolled students only, and that can reimburse and fund, I think there's like 25 different things. Driver's ed, private school tuition, a private tutor, gym shoes. It's a huge variety. My daughter was in 4-H and they purchased some of her supplies she needed for her horse. They wouldn't buy the horse, they won't buy animals, but they were able to help her out funding for her saddle and her boots and the classes she took to get to learn her horse. So that was really awesome, super beneficial for my Ho-Chunk enrolled children to have those opportunities. We also have the Tutor Services program. So we push into Head Start all the way through college. We work with anybody who is registered in a school. We are here to support, we are here to help. We have 19 tutors who don't just work in their area. So an example, my Black River tutors work in the Black River school, but I also have tutors from Minneapolis, Madison, and Milwaukee who come in virtually to tutor some of the kiddos that the tutors in Black River couldn't get to. So we share students all over. And there is the Youth Services program. So this is a program for K through 12 students to come in through social services, and it provides culture, it provides social emotional, it provides big events where we're trying to get our students. There's a youth council, there's a unity conference. A big part of youth services too would be the Native American Indigenous Games every 4 years. These are all programs we have to foster our K through 12 students. And post-secondary, there's the higher education division. So I had mentioned before, the tutors can branch over into higher ed. So if you have a freshman who's not doing well, call the tutors. We're going to help them get through that first year of school. We're not going to stop. We're not going to leave them until they say, okay, I'm good. But our higher ed offers a 2-year program, a 4-year program, a master's program, and a doctorate program. And these are all like they're grants. They're grants for you to be able to make this happen for yourself. And then on the side, I have with an asterisk the disabilities program. She provides support to everybody. Any enrolled tribal member, Dr. Funmaker is going to help you understand, figure out, implement. She will fight with schools. She knows the laws. She's phenomenal. So if you're even thinking or have an inkling of a relative or your student who you think, I think we need better supports, please reach out. We are here to support, not judge, completely support. So here's a breakdown of how all those programs spend their monies. So I mentioned before, JOM is BIA, so you can be enrolled or a descendant of. Pre-K through 12 is funded through Ho-Chunk Nation, and so this is reimbursement. Tutor Services is also NPD funded, but also through multiple districts, we have a Title VI grant that allows anybody registered in Title VI to also be eligible for tutor services programs. And that's a big collaboration we have throughout Minneapolis and Wisconsin. Youth Services has 10 service areas. And here in Black River, I hear a lot of language for our students, which I think is awesome. And then our disabilities division is Dr. Funmaker. The supports the school district has for you are your school counselors. They are there to provide social emotional help. They offer school supplies, clothing, snow gear, hats, gloves, academic support if your kiddo lost their class schedule. The counselors are they're like the mom of the school. They're going to help you do that. Your school counselors are also the ones responsible for your 504 plans. That does not go through the special education department. The 504 plan goes through your school counselors. And there's other people in the school that are amazing. There's your school psychologist, your school board, your school social worker, your academic coaches, and your teachers. All of us together in the perfect world provide these supports for every single student. But if all of us don't know what those specific supports are for that specific student, we're failing that student. And communication is the only way we can achieve that. So, Department of Instruction is Wisconsin, it's by state. So each state has their own Department of Instruction. And what this does is it's a website that holds every single law about education in Wisconsin, and every state has their own. Oh, I took it away. Ho-Chunk Nation, the education department, you can do Google searches for each one of these topics, and probably an overwhelming amount of information is going to come flooding to you. The Johnson O'Malley and Title VI program, I briefly talked about Title VI with the tutors. Title VI, again, depending on the Department of Education, could be one of those programs that gets chopped. I said there were 10 titles. Title VI is one of them. Title VI requires, it's a grant schools apply for. The district holds the money, but the parents control how it is spent. And this money is spent to incorporate culture. And probably my favorite is Wisconsin has Act 31. Act 31 is the legal obligation of all public schools in Wisconsin to teach about African American, Hispanic, Native American, and Hmong American culture. It is the law. It is not DEI. It is not making anybody, I don't even know the words for it. It is the law, is the best way I can say. And it is the law that pre-K through 12 has to teach about our culture in every single social studies and ELA class. If we're not seen there, they're non-compliant with the law. You report it to the Department of Instruction. My favorite is people to go cry to when I don't get my way. So Ho-Chunk Nation Education Department, Wisconsin DPI laws, Act 31, social services has unlimited resources for our kiddos. The Ho-Chunk legislators, if there's something we don't have, we need to go to our legislators and ask, we need this. This is a true need for my community. Can you help me? And then your county social services. If the nation doesn't have it in the moment, Perhaps the county does, so use that as a backup. That is all I have for you guys. Does anybody have questions? Everybody snap a picture of this page. All right, I'm going to give it back to Ronelle and Jamie.
Thank you very much for being here today, Arielle. We will just wait a couple minutes to see if anybody has any questions. We'll give it about 1:45. If not, then we'll do the closing.
I have a question for you, Arielle. If a kiddo is looking for help and perhaps they don't want to talk to their parents or guardians about it, what advice would you give them?
The student or the parent who knows something's going on?
The student.
I would recommend to the student to find a safe adult in their school. By law, we are mandatory reporters. So if it is a danger or a threat, we're going to reach out, let the parents know, hey, this is a feeling. We're here to support you. Here's support systems we have. If they're comfortable with their guidance counselor, sometimes it is more often than not a bullying situation where that kid feels attacked or they don't feel safe. Talk to those guidance counselors, talk to somebody, not to talk, but to have a plan on how to fix it. So we always say talk to an adult, but we don't ever tell our students what do we want to talk to them about. And they're too young to understand that underlying innuendo that we're giving. So using very clear language with your students, why don't you talk to the counselor and find out a plan of what works for you? If recess is a problem, let's come up with a solution. Because saying go talk to a counselor isn't enough information for a young person to say, oh, they mean, how can I fix it? Or what should I, kind of almost goes to a tattletale mode. So giving them the tools and the language on how to talk about it.
So then the flip side, what would you say to the parents or guardians of this student?
Yep. I'm going to tell you, as a teacher, we know everything. So if the parent is feeling their child is off, reach out to the teacher. Are you noticing the same thing? What have you heard? Because kids do talk to kids. I currently go into 5th grade and the high school once a week to work with some students, and I can tell you who's dating who, who's not dating who, who's cheating on who, whose phone doesn't work, who had to go to bed at 10 o'clock because they got grounded. So as teachers and people that interact with your students, they do talk to somebody, so that's a benefit. So if you feel something is off, reach out to their teachers. Are you noticing this? Have you heard anything about this? We're with them 7 hours a day. Chances are we've got some tea for you.
Okay, I have a question. So I do have children in your tutoring program. I guess the best way to say it is, what is your goal for your individual tutors? Obviously, you guys are all educators, and there's that academic goal that you're trying to reach with each individual student. But as a program, a new program coming to the Ho-Chunk Nation, what is your goal at the end of your first year?
Wow, just trying to get through the year. Um, no, my goal would be that our students have learned self-efficacy. When they are comfortable in their own skin, they're going to be more receptive to what somebody is throwing at them academically. Um, I think for all students, not just Native students, for all students, that self-efficacy is so important. Having a positive school role model, I think, would be my number one priority for the tutors this year. Having that safe person for our students, because once you break the social emotional, the academic piece can come into play. And I know that sounds so odd coming from an educator, but if you remember when I was a kid, and kindergarten was all about social skills. It was not multiplication and skip counting. It was, here's how we take turns. Here's how we have a conversation. Here's how we share. When we skip those skills and we try to push academics, we have created so much anxiety in these humans because they don't know how to problem solve those little things, and they snowball into big things. So my number one priority for our students is that they are comfortable in their own skin. They are comfortable talking to their teacher. Hey, I missed this assignment. Can I have some extended time to fix it? Work with the tutor. You know, when you're self-efficient, the goal would be, I would say 5-year goal, because we're new, we're building that rapport with our families and students. The goal of a tutor is to not need us. So I think those would be our biggest goals right now.
Thank you very much for that. I like that answer.
I get a cookie.
Next time I see you in Wittenberg, I will definitely make sure that you get a cookie. All right, if there is no other questions, we will get to the closing. So once again, thank you, Arielle, and thank you everyone for joining us today. As a reminder that this session is being recorded, and it will be available on the Department of Health website and our Facebook pages. We look forward to seeing everyone at our next session, which will be Wednesday, April 2nd from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. And we will be joined by Manissa Powlis. She will be presenting on understanding substance use and recovery for the family. You can use the same link as today to join all future sessions. If you'd like to be added to the recurring WebEx link on your calendar, you can email Renelle or I, and we can forward the invite to you. We welcome all feedback related to this series. If you have a topic that you would like to learn about, or if you'd like to present on a topic, you can reach out to Renelle and I see that Renelle has put both of our emails in the group chat. And I thank you all for being here today. Everyone have a good rest of your day. See you later.